Sometimes we see the man with the $1 million round table and we look at him and say, gee, everything must just always fall into place for him or he couldn't be there. But what you're saying is that you too stub your toe and you too have the door closed.
Oh, sure.
And so forth. That's sort of interesting. When do you know to walk away from a client or a prospect? And how do you judge that it's time to leave, that this is not a good workable situation?
Well, if you've called on the man once, twice, maybe the third time, and there's been no meeting of minds, well, you're wasting your time. I would leave him alone and go back and see him maybe a year later, or at least on the next stage change. When you go back, you're no longer strangers. You'll remember him, he'll remember you, and could very well be that a lot of what you did earlier will now lead you right into a sale.
You want to get him examined. This seems to be kind of important to you,
Sure
making the sale click.
Sure it is. Let me put it together. All we need is medical underwriting. I'll arrange for a time that's convenient for you. So the implied consent, don't wait for him to say anything. Keep moving it along. Get him examined and get a contract issued. Now come back with something, and now you make the sale.
What average do you get of sales, do you think, out of the people that you can get examined? How many
I
do you
would
sell?
say 3 out of 4, maybe 5 out of 6.
How do you encourage them to get examined? Are they reluctant to do this for you sometimes?
Curiosity. Way down in the back of his mind, he wonders, there have been mornings when he climbed out of bed when he didn't feel like climbing out of bed. And maybe he's had a headache and he's had this, and there are times when he didn't feel up to par. We're talking about a lot of money. He'd like to make sure that maybe he is all right. The life underwriting committee of my company will give you a report on life expectancy. Wouldn't you like to know?
Curiosity, yes.
Get your people examined once a year on the age change. I had an accountant call me a few days ago, and he said, I'd like to be examined, myself and my wife, every year. He didn't say he wanted to buy more insurance every year, but I'd like to be re-examined every year. And the odds are that I'll keep adding a little coverage every year. But that's one way. And another way is just, let's see if we can. A year from now, even if you're as beautiful as you are now, even if you're as perfect as you are now, even if you feel as good then as you do now, the rates will still be higher because you're older. And the rates will go up maybe 4% per year. Every year. And the best time to buy life insurance is yesterday.
You're disturbing me, all right. That's good.
We succeed in getting most of our people examined, and we succeed in getting most of our policies placed. We don't succeed in getting all our policies issued for many, many reasons. Men work under pressure. Sometimes physically, medically, things do happen to them. And we bump into problems, but the ratios are in our favor.
Really, your method on an interview would be to pinpoint the problem, and you do this with your disturbing questions. You have done enough homework and enough study on the prospect that you can offer the solution, and then you get him examined, and that does it. Would you work through a couple of situations here for me? I had some ideas, and I think it might be kind of interesting. Let me give you this group of facts. How would you work through this one? You've been prospecting, and you've discovered a man, age 50. He's married, has 3 children, and he has 2 of these children in college. His business is worth somewhat more than $400,000, and he carries $150,000 of life insurance. He has $50,000 in stocks and bonds, and I think you might say he has a problem there. And how would you make this prospect recognize that problem? His business is worth $400,000. He carries $150,000 of life, and he has $50,000 in stocks and bonds.
Let me assume the business at $400,000, the insurance and the stocks and bonds would add $200,000 for a total of $600,000.
Right.
If everything's perfect, if everything's planned properly, if the estate qualifies for what we call the marital deduction, it will still take over $100,000 to bail out the estate. Now, we've only got 150 in life insurance, so let's assume they take 100 of that. So there isn't much left. Now, the business lost the man who built the business. Now, the family lost his salary. Now, do they want continuity for the company? Then let's put a cushion on the company. Well, let's say 1 year's profits. Maybe that company was earning, what shall we say, $50,000 a year. Let's put a cushion on the company, maybe of 2 years' profits. Put a $100,000 key-man policy in the company. 2. You know, that family has to have money. And while she owns what he owned, she can't do what he had been doing with reference to running your company. You're standing in his shoes, but you can't do what he was doing. But you need the same amount of money. You have to go on living. Well, now, where are you going to get money? So you'd better let's set up 10 years of salary continuation. If he was drawing $30,000 a year, let's set up 20. That's 200 more. Continuity for the company? Maybe you'd better have something more in the company because of corporate credit. Maybe the banks, if you walk out, would like to walk out. And most companies that are growing use credit, the other man's money. Get out the bank and borrow the money and lock it up in the company. And maybe you better have something there designed to bail out the bank. See, I can find need for so much money. Life insurance is what we call it, but it's so much money. And I would get the man examined, and I'd come back with 1, a tax policy. 2, I'd come back with salary continuation. 3, I'd come back with something designed to create a floor for corporate credit. I'd probably bring the man possibly another 300 of life insurance. Didn't have money? Then I'd bring it back on a low-cost plan. Maybe it had to be term insurance, which we would convert gradually as time went by. But he's a tremendous prospect.
So he'd be worth going after.
Oh, sure. See, by the time you got through with this man's estate, he'd be a millionaire.
That's beautiful. It's nice to be able to make someone a millionaire.
Well, see, we can do that. Piece of paper, drop a ink and a few pennies, and now it's $1 million estate.
I think I could buy that very easily. All I need is that corporation now. But if you had this as a problem then, let's say we have a case of a well-to-do businessman without money. He has assets that have been converted into property, like you said before, the brick, steel, and land idea. And this man already has a fair amount of insurance, but wants to protect what he has accumulated. How would you confront him about his insurance needs?
With a tax table, with an estate tax table, with a tax case that I carry that shows who's who in America that lived, that accumulated substantial estates, that died, and shows what happens to them. In the front of my tax case, I've got money, $1,000 bill, and 15 $1 bills, but they look like 16 $1,000 bills. On top of that is a pile of pennies. And I say these are discounted dollars for pennies apiece. You're going to need some. Do you remember Franklin Delano Roosevelt? You know, he had access to good counsel. He was president of the United States of America, and yet when he died, he didn't have enough money to pay the tax on the estate and had to liquidate assets. Your auditor? I have the estate of Charles Ernst of Ernst & Ernst. Taxes destroyed the estate. Your lawyer? I have the estate of the chief counsel of the DuPont Company, and taxes destroyed the estate. Then I have who's who in America, from Humphrey Bogart on down to Arthur Vining Davis, who had an estate of $400 million. And this man has everything locked up. Somebody had better unlock it. And if you don't, the executor will, and they'll call it liquidation. And that's a very dear price to pay.
It's a matter of having these tools with which to work, though, like you're speaking of the who's who and so forth. These can be very impressive tools. The $1,000 bill with the 16, what's it backing it? The 16 ones backing it?
Well, that's money, and money designed to get attention. See, your agent should build himself tools to work with. My tax case is a method of getting attention, showing what actually happens when the man dies. By that I mean the need for money. And as a rule, the lack of money. Probate records show how much money was there in the form of money. And it shows how much money was necessary. 9 times out of 10, they don't have enough cash to pay what must be paid in cash. So it becomes a liquidation.
Well, these are tools that obviously you have studied and put together and are sort of your own that you can use with people.
Well, the tax case, yes, we made the tax case. Then I have a Lucide block. Looks like a bundle of money. And I'll tape right on it, $100,000. And I'll walk in and I'll say, Mr. Smith, this is what I brought for you. It's 100, and it's got a dollar bill on each side of it that are real. It's $100,000, and it cost 3 pennies per dollar per year. Now, how many of these would you like?
That shows them graphically.
And how many are you going to need? Well, let me see. If you have an estate of X dollars, this is how many this man had to have. And I'll point to an estate that I reasonably believe is smaller than yours. So he can't debate it with you, because I know it's bigger and he knows it's bigger. And it's going to get bigger because he's plowing profits back in. I can show a need for money to give the company a chance to go on living, to give the family a chance to go on living, to keep together what he's put together. See, the tax impact on your estate can destroy your estate by creating a forced liquidation of assets. People don't plan on dying. They plan on living, and maybe that's the way it should be, but people don't have a lease on life, and people do die. How much is a man's life worth? A man that's been trained, that's qualified to walk in and manage a company, he's managing money. He can make or break the company. He's the biggest asset the company has. If somebody would point that out. You know, there are a lot of key man policies being written, even in public companies now, on the premise that the key men make or break the company. And they're the biggest assets the company has. Not the inventory, and not that kind of money is worth 5, 6, 7%. And you take that money and make it earn many times that. You're the real asset, the key man, the biggest asset in the company. And the company has the right to insure all its assets. You insure the building, that's fire insurance. You insure the cars, you insure the inventory, you insure what the bank makes you insure if you're borrowing money. What about you? Now, you know, the banks more and more are getting to a stage where they want insurance on the key man. And they want it assigned to the bank. And the day you walk out, they want out. They don't loan any money to your company. They loan the money to you. And you walk out, they want their money back.
They want their part of it, too.
And that area alone, see, every small company and big companies must have working capital. Big companies, when they want working capital, float another issue of stock. Small company wants more money, goes down to the bank, makes a loan. And you see, if management in that company could be shown that it takes time to repay the loan. See, it takes time. If you're going down to borrow money, you must need it for some reason. And when you need it, that means you're going to spend it. And when you spend it, you've locked it up in something. Maybe you built another wing on the building. Maybe you built some inventory. Whatever it was, you spent the money, you locked it up. And if something happens unforeseen, gee, maybe there's time to convert it back into dollars, and maybe there isn't, without suffering a loss. See, the key men, that one field itself, If you just dwell on the key man contract and call on the small business man, the small area, where he can take and put $100 a month into key man coverage. Everybody on the payroll gets more than $100 a month. He'll put you on the payroll. You're going to work for $100 a month. That $100 a month will be, let's say, a $40,000 policy. That's key man insurance. The simple little package. Put me on your payroll, $100 a month.
I love that statement.
And you know what I'll do? I'll pile up some money. Mm-hmm. Someday you need some, call me. It'll be there. 3/4 of what you put there is piling up in cash. And when you really need it, when you're gone, if you're gone, money comes walking in. And our contracts, and most companies, are a little different now. They have a provision built into them that pretty much returns your premiums as well as pays the proceeds. Let's go back and analyze this $100 a month. And let's look 10 years down the road, and you've paid in $12,000, and you've piled up in cash probably $10,000, and it becomes a claim. Now, you only gave me 12. You follow me? You only gave me 12,000. I'll give you back 10. I didn't keep much, did I? Did I? I only kept the difference between the two. But for that 2,000 I kept, I'll give you 40,000. Tell me no. Whatever the reason, tell me no. All right, you're 2,000 ahead, aren't you? Where do you plan on putting it so it'll be worth 40? Because you don't know how long. See, nobody knows they're going to live 1 year or 10 years or 100 years. See, a contract guarantees the day you walk out and money walks in. Not the amount you paid in, but the amount that was promised, the face amount, not the cash amount. But these contracts are peculiar, that they return the accumulated equity, and the accumulated equity is very close to the accumulated premiums. And over and above that, they pay the full face amount. I sometimes wonder how a life insurance company can return the cost and still pay the claim. But they're doing that.
These are all beautiful responses, Ben, and as spontaneous as they are, I notice a definite, well, sort of logic and emotional build-up that you do from the pinpointing of the problem to the actual solution, and repeatedly you keep your phrases and ideas simple. So obviously this is one of the things. But another thing you do, you constantly keep the needs of your client in mind. I seem to recall you have a favorite story that you demonstrate uncovering the client's needs. Can you tell us that? What about the real estate developer who had in 1946 two policies? I think they were $1,000 each. That's a great story.
Yes, he had two policies. One with New York Life for $1,000 and one with Equitable of New York for $1,000, and he didn't want any more. And we've built that case now to a point where he can't get any more. And we've searched the world for insurance and reinsurance, and it's not possible to get any more any place. We now have a man in his 60s, mid-60s, with an estate of $100 million. Earning a lot of money, no income tax problem because it's real estate, and they generate enough shelter they never have income tax. And we have now on him about $16 million of coverage. The tax impact on his estate, it's a $100 million estate. If it's perfect in the way it's structured, it'll be taxed on $50 million now and $50 million, when his widow passes away. The $50 million now, that $50 million, we need right now $35 to $40 million to pay the tax on that estate. Where are we going to get it? See, he's so big now, nothing can be done. It'll be a forced liquidation of assets. If I had been able earlier to have, instead of 16 million, if I could have gotten 30 million. But after all, even the insurance industry gets to a place where they don't want that much insurance walking around one pair of shoes. They just don't want it, and they won't give it to you. So that's it. So there's a man that, see, from now on, everything he puts together will be down the drain. Why? It's not possible to pay the tax on it. He's far beyond the 16 million. far, far, far beyond. That company pays me $1 million a year in premiums. $1 million a year in premiums. And I wish I had been able to get twice that much. Where does he get that sort of money? He has tremendous corporate credit lines, and he used money to grow. Part of the money available from lenders has been used to pay premiums, but he generates tremendous cash flow. Tremendous. Take $100 million estate. If it's earning 10%, it's $10 million a year, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's almost $1 million a month. The need is so fabulous, the industry isn't and wasn't big enough to take care of the problem. And so, half the man's lifetime will go down the drain because we weren't big enough in our thinking, we couldn't do and didn't do what should have been done.
But this is your consideration for your client's needs. We've talked a lot about the big problems, the big corporations and so forth, but where do you find money for a young man, the fellow who's just coming along and really isn't established in business, and yet he has a family and maybe a couple of children? Where are you going to find money for him, Ben?
Well, let's say that man is a young man. Let's say he's 35, and let's say he's married, and let's say he's buying a home, and let's say he's earning $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month. You see, that man wants his family to go on living. He bought a home. He wants to finish paying for it. He can take some small part. I don't mean take 20% of his earnings. Let's take 2%. Let's take 5% of that $12,000 a year. Let's take $50, $60 a month if we don't have anything more than that. And he'll grow. His income will grow. And as it grows, we'll convert to permanent coverage. The average agent doesn't write a contract that requires a premium of $300 a month. Maybe it's a premium of $100 a month or $50 a month. My son wrote one this week, $67 a month. What was it? $50,000. For a person earning about $12,000 a year, he can afford $67 a month. See, if he can't afford $67 a month, let me ask you, what if his earnings went down by $50, $60 a month? Wouldn't the family go on living? So he can't afford it, can he? Now, if he dies and he doesn't have it, how long will he go on living? She'd better go to work. She'd better get remarried. Somebody pays. There's a price tag. Nothing for nothing. So that the little policy for the little man, and you'll grow together.
There are lots of these things, though, that are oppositions that the insurance salesman has to encounter, and I think sometimes it's a little difficult to fend them, to know what to respond on them. How would you rebut someone who says to you, well, like I prefer to buy stocks and get a better return on my money? What do you say to that?
Wonderful, wonderful. I never found a man that had a lease on life. I hope you are the first one.
No, that's good, though, because this is the rebuttal. Another one that I think is frequently used is, but I'd like to wait.
For what? For what? For the rates to go down? For what? Promise me you'll be here tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And if you aren't, what happens to your family?
You say this so realistically, I feel like you're really saying it to me. This is it, though. This is the answer for them. Another one that is great is like a closed corporation head who would say, but I'd like to talk it with my attorneys and accountants. It's a classic.
Well, that's fine. But meanwhile, while you're talking it over, let's find out if we can. Let's first find out if you're eligible. Let me get the examinations in, and let me get them through life underwriting, and let's make sure what we're talking about can be done. And when we do, then we can present it to the auditor and to the lawyer. Meanwhile, we have nothing to present to them. You, as the agent, be sure that this man needs what you're presenting to him and why he needs it, and that there'll be a price tag if he does nothing, and it'll get paid. Sometimes with heartache, doing without.
As you've been talking with us today, I've heard phrases that are, I know what they call power phrases, and they're part of what my term is Feldmanism. They're your way of saying things. Where did you get these power phrases? Did you just originate them?
Oh, I stole them, I begged them, I borrowed them, I hear them. If I see something, I'll clip it out, I'll write it down, I'll record on the dictate, and then that's the beginning maybe of the paraphrase. And we'll keep redoing that and redoing that and redoing that until it becomes a true power phrase. And we have a big case of these. And I've got them under the glass on my desk. And I pull a drawer open here when I'm on the telephone trying to get an interview. These are paraphrases. You develop these, you steal these, you make these, you borrow these. They're not really original. They belong to everybody, but you change them a little bit. Now they become mine.
What would some of your paraphrases be for prospecting with the client?
It'll depend on what I think his problem is. Let's suppose that it's time to complete a program in a company. We've got a contract designed to ensure 1 year's profits. It's not exactly a paraphrase, but let me put it together, and you take a look. Did you have a lease on life? I never found a man that did. Let's find out. Do you remember so-and-so? He died at a rather early age. Didn't have time to complete what he was hoping to finish. We have a contract designed to do what you want done. Let me show it to you. How much time do you need to do the things that are in the back of your mind?
You've said, Ben, that everything has a price. What's the price for success as you see it?
Doing what you're doing the best you know how. Setting a goal a little bit bigger than you. Breaking it into little pieces, and then doing one piece at a time until you get the job done.
Do you feel that it's important, too, as a part of the success, that it's the man's attitude, his thinking, too?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do it badly enough, you'll get it done. And if you don't want to, whatever the excuses are, you won't get it done.
So it's a man, his thinking, and his hard work, really.
Nothing for nothing.
This is the end of side 1. Please use your fast forward to run out any remaining blank tape. Turn to side 2. Your cassette will then be in proper position to hear a simulated sales presentation.